Welcome to the podcast, Joanne. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Oh my gosh, Kylie, thank you for having me. I am so honored to be a part of your show.
I just love the online space for connecting because I don't even know how we found each other right away, but ever since we've connected, it's kind of been like throwing the ball back and forth, but every time we do, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so good to connect with you. Like, how's it going? It's just a good place to really talk about like what's going on in your world because we have similar worlds.
We do. And I think it's great that people can, just to let everyone know, like, true story behind the scenes. I kind of stalked Kylie just a little bit back when she was producing a very big podcast for a very big name and then connected with you on LinkedIn. So I think the important piece here is that everyone needs to understand that what you do on your social media, like, actually can make a difference.
Absolutely, especially when we do have this online world where we're not, going to hang out with our next door neighbor all the time, or they even understand what we're doing online here. But that's another story for another time. Let's dive in. So, Joanne, I would love for you to share a little bit of like your journey. How did you get into podcasting? What sparked that interest for you?
This is the funny, like, probably the best story I could give any podcast host. It was a complete accident. Am I allowed to curse on your show?
Mhm.
Okay, total shit show. And to be fair, I had never even listened to a single podcast in my life before I hit record on my very first one. So way back in the days when I was a real estate agent, I was running this big, massive team here in Atlanta. My friend Tina was running a big team up in the north where she lived, and we decided that we were kind of tired of running our teams and we wanted to go into the coaching space for real estate. And so, because we both taught and trained a lot at our brokerages, and she just laughed and she's like, I don't want to build a coaching business on Instagram. Let's do a podcast. And I mean, like, we were having a Zoom, and I literally just lifted my glass of wine up to her Zoom. I said, sure, okay, fine. What's a podcast? And she was like, "You've never listened to a podcast?" I said, "No, I thought they were all just NPR, like what I heard my parents
Mhm.
listening to when I was growing up." And so she's like, "We're going to do this. It's going to be great." So I did what everyone does, and I went to YouTube and I Googled, on YouTube, how to start a podcast. And 5 days later, Tina and I showed up on a Zoom and we were like, "Okay, let's do this." And she was like,
Yeah.
"I'm going to create a cover in Canva." We named it the Tina and Joe Show because we were just super cute like that. And we recorded our first episode. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea even like really how to do intro music or outro music, which was really popular at the time. And because I had Googled it on YouTube, I was like, okay, let's go to Buzzsprout and click go. And the next thing I knew, I had a podcast. So that is my story of intro to podcasting.
Okay, but it didn't stop there because then you bring us through, like you eventually went on to create PodcastHer. How did that come up? Like, how did this journey evolve even further?
Oh my gosh. So Tina eventually, like the typical podcast host, 10 or 15 episodes in, she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too much work. And I said, okay, great. I'm enjoying it. And so I flipped the podcast into something called the B word, which was a
Mhm.
play on my last name, Bolt, and a play on the actual B word, because I was helping a lot of female entrepreneurs. And, when you're really putting yourself out there and you're doing a lot in this space, women can just be catty and they can call you things and they can get jealous and, haters and trolls. It all happens. And so I named it the B word, and I was encouraging female entrepreneurs. Well, as that evolved and I kept going with it, I was like, you know what? I really, really, I want to elevate female podcast hosts because just like and it's funny, Kylie, because I feel like all through my career, I've looked around and said, how do we break the mold? How do we like change the game for the generations to come and the narrative? Because even when I was in real estate, I was one of the highest producing agents in Atlanta. But when
Oh.
it came time to really lead the big panels and, you know, put the stars of the show up for the nationwide brokerages, it was all the men.
Mm.
They touted their teams, not the female teams, because it was men that owned the brokerages. Well, then I came into the podcast space and it felt the same. Like if I pulled up Apple Podcast, Jay
Mhm.
Shetty showed up, like Joe Rogan, like it was all the men. And like I love me the men. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a male hater, But I got really frustrated that I was actually having to find business and entrepreneur and the things I wanted to hear from the female's perspective.
Mhm.
I could find a lot of stuff about being a mom, but that's not what I was hunting. And I felt like a lot of women podcast hosts fall into the mompreneur and how to do it the mom way. And like we cutesy it up. And I thought, what if I could help elevate the businesswoman? The woman who's really getting out there and she wants to make a million and she's not afraid to put her voice out there, but she does have a little bit of a limiting belief. And so I started Podcast Her as a way to help that gap that I perceived in the industry of you either have a brand new podcast or you have one that's kind of struggling to make it and you're not really sure if it's any good or not. You have no idea if anyone's listening because the biggest myth in podcasting is that no one really knows how many downloads you need in order to be successful. Or you had the top of the top that are all ranked 1 through 10. And like the difference between that middle and the top is so big. And so that's where I started out in Podcast Her in order to really just elevate those women and help them figure out how to use the podcast as a way to make more wealth in their business.
I love that. And because you have so much experience connecting with women and female podcasters, what would you say is the biggest misconception or myth for a female podcaster that you kind of uncovered over the years of working with them?
Oh, I think the biggest myth is that you have to be this massively huge
Mhm.
audience. You have to have this big audience. I think that the power in a female voice, especially, is that for those of us that are listening to your show, we are connecting with you on a different level. I can listen to Jay Shetty talk mind talk all day long, or I can go listen to a Mel Robbins. And there's just that little shift in perception that
Mhm.
I'm going to resonate more with Mel. Well, the misconception is you have to be as big as Mel Robbins to have that same impact. I can also listen to someone who's got only 1,000 downloads and a very engaged audience, but man, she will resonate with me more, even so, than Mel because she's now relatable. I don't see Mel Robbins in myself, but I might see you in me. And then that makes me want to listen to you. And so I think the biggest myth that we have as hosts is that we're not making an impact unless we have the big names or the big audience.
Mhm.
And we are. At the end of the day, you are.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. I just think, and especially with just how much we've leaned into vanity metrics for so long, it's like we're vanity metric fatigued.
Yes.
And just because you have this inflated numbers, like the actual numbers of that's feeding into your business isn't really showing the results. But then when you have somebody who has maybe a smaller audience or a really niche audience, like they can be doing just as well. So share a little bit about when you do support these female entrepreneurs or these female podcasters. Many are entrepreneurs, I'm assuming
Yeah.
though,
They are.
really. Um, what's the biggest way that they can use their podcast to really generate revenue, grow their audience, all those things?
Oh, I will say hands down, it's first shifting your own mindset as a host. And and one of the first things I tell, the women that I work with is don't actually go into your Buzzsprout and look at your downloads again. Yes, I want you looking to see which episodes are resonating with your audience,
Mhm.
but I don't want you caught up in how many people listen to it
Mhm.
because then that's all you get caught up in. What I want you to do is understand that you're not selling from your podcast. You really should never actually put your offer out there on the podcast because I'm going to stop listening to you if I feel like you're a broken record of buy my offer, buy my offer, buy my offer. We are looking for authenticity, we are looking for relatability. So when I go to your podcast, I need you to understand that this is me taking one more step into your world past Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are your billboards and your business cards. This is me deciding how much I trust you, how much I resonate with you, and how much I want to work with you. Because if I'm the right client and you are speaking to the right avatar on your podcast, I'm going to come down the sales funnel with you. I'm going to raise my hand at some point and get myself on your email list or your text message list. So
Mhm.
that's where you're selling your offers from. You are not selling them from the show, you're selling them from the email list. Your job as a host is to make me want to raise my hand and say, "Where do I get on the list and how?"
Mm.
And then you
There's
make your money from the list.
Oh, yes, yes. There's so many things that I love about your answer there, and the one is the mindset piece, which is so important, and I wanna talk more about that because I know that that's kind of what you are evolving into, and you're so good
Mhm.
at, coaching through the mindset piece. I wanna go there. But I just saw this really interesting study that they did this study where they were measuring, like, the energy leaving your body. Have you seen this?
I have heard some stuff similar to it. So go. Yeah,
Okay.
let's
So
begin.
they thought, initially you thought, oh, it's love. Like love is the most potent, like energy vibration leaving your body when you can measure it. It's authenticity.
Mhm.
And I love that you just said that. But I do have to wonder, like, how does that translate to when somebody's listening? What do you think?
I think we know. I think it's I told someone one time, if you don't love being a podcast host, like we can tell. You don't come across, your energy is never there. You just don't sound like you really know what you're talking about. You sound like you're just putting out an episode in order to put out an episode. But when you're really real and raw and vulnerable and you're talking about whatever it is you're talking about and you actually believe in it, like there's a different tonality that comes out in the voice. And it's weird because it may not be something that you or I could like immediately pick up on, but our subconscious in the back of our brain, it
Mhm.
does. It vibrates at that level. I'm not a scientist, but go with me on this. And so, like, we can tell if you're into it or not, or if you're just faking it to fake it, or if like we know, and therefore that's the person who's only going to listen to you for one or two episodes and then they're bouncing out to the next person, or the person who's going to lean in and say, "Tell me more."
Mm,
Because I believe you. I think that you really know what you're talking about, or I think you really care about me. So I think the truer you can be to yourself, and sometimes, and you know this, sometimes that is actually saying, "Oh, I would love to have a podcast, but I really don't enjoy podcasting." And so take yourself out of the space, and that's okay. But I think the truer you can be to yourself, the better your audience will enjoy your show.
I love that. And I think especially as we talk about women podcasters, a lot of female listeners, you're spot on. We are more intuitive, right? So we do
Mhm.
in the back of our minds, that's exactly it. We know when it feels authentic, when it feels like that
Like,
podcast
you
host.
just know when your teenager
Yeah.
maybe is lying to you. Like, they could say that lie just perfectly, but you just know.
Well, I'm not quite there yet. So I'll be coming back to you in like 10 to 14 years when Clove is there. But oh my gosh. Okay, so Joanne, I love that you brought up getting people on your email list. That's what I'm all about. What are your favorite ways to get podcast listeners to really get them to come over to your email list and start to engage with them over there?
That has been one of those journeys that I've taken. So, if we like true transparency, if we go back to the real estate days, I was so like emotionally scarred from the thought of having an email list because a real estate
Mm,
agent will literally buy list. They'll put anyone on their list and then they'll brag about how big their list is, even though 98% of those people aren't even opening an email or unsubscribing or never asked to be on the list in the first place. And so I kind of came out of a world where I was like, oh, hell no, I am not growing an email list because it's so fake and it's not how I grew my business when I
mm,
was in real estate. Like I never bothered with email list. And then I entered the digital online world and I'm like, oh crap, you actually do have to have an email list and people really do read emails. So I went from being the girl every day who unsubscribed over her morning coffee from as many emails as I had managed to get myself on without even trying to trying to build an email list. And I think at that time, and I say that time, and when we're talking up to like 2 months ago, lead magnets were one of my favorite ways. Go and do 10 ways to do something or a checklist for this. And I just think as we in 2025, we are so over lead magnet fatigued
mm,
that now as we are really kind of coming back into that era of I want to know who the heck you are and I want it to be relatable. My favorite way right now to grow my list is for every episode we do on my podcast. I will have something extra of value that
Mhm.
really, like, we did one on money mindset. It was episode 299, and I literally took a blank check photo, like, from Canva. I mean, well, obviously, it weren't my checks. And I taught the women about a money mindset exercise that I had done, and I said, "Listen, the free value for this week, you can mini chat me 299 and you can get it, is this free blank check, like, to go along with the exercise."
Mhm.
And so that's one I didn't even ask for their email for. I just wanted to give it to them. But I've trained my audience now that there's always going to be, for every single episode, a little something extra. And sometimes I'm going to ask for their email in exchange for it. And that's better than a lead magnet to me,
Mhm.
because they've listened to the episode, they've leaned into the episode, and then they've said, "Ooh, I didn't write down the framework she was talking about. Let me just grab that PDF," which is
Mhm.
essentially the same as a lead magnet, but it's not me shouting at the, beginning of every episode to go get this one lead magnet. I'm literally creating value for every episode I do, which, yeah, takes a little more effort.
Mhm.
I mean, my team's got to be a little bit more on it, but I think we're getting a better email list because we're getting more engaged people on the email list. They're raising their
Mm.
hand in a different way. So that's my current favorite way to grow it.
I love that. And I agree. When I do create something to kind of go as a support item for my episodes, I do think, how can I take it one step further and not just give them exactly what I said,
Oh,
but like what's something that could go hand in hand. But I love that you're talking about doing it every single week. Sometimes it's no email required, sometimes it is, and just training your audience on that. That's
yeah.
so good. So
That
good.
way, and obviously we tag everything on the back end. And
Mhm.
so I know if they've downloaded several things.
Mhm.
And for me, what the most powerful part of that as a business owner is, it's not that they downloaded the freebie, honestly. It's not that they got into the email list even. It's that, hey, if I have X amount of people that all got the extra value we did when I did a money mindset type
Mhm.
episode, then I know that that is what my audience is craving right now. So it's like you can do one or two generic lead magnets that you just put out on a dynamic insert for every single episode, or you can lean into using the lead magnets in a way that adds value to your people and adds value to your own business, because you can start to figure out, like, they're raising their hand all the time. Email list building is one of my biggest things. Oh my gosh, I put anything out for an email list building, they all raise their hands. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
we can talk about that again. So it's like you do your research without having to do your research.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I agree so much. We forget how powerful that back end data can be, that we can learn so much about our audience through that. Like when I create quizzes with my clients, the information that we glean from that, I don't even think they expect to get that much information and that
No.
much data. I'm like, okay, there you go. Were you feeling unsure about what episodes to do? Here, do them related to
Oh my
XYZ.
gosh, Kylie, we just, like, last week, we put out my first ever quiz. You be proud. Proud mama there.
Yay.
And it's about being a CEO and, like, what do you need right now? What level are you at in your
Mhm.
business? And of the people that took the quiz, like, to me, the answer of the quiz wasn't as important as, on all of the landing pages, we put different resources for,
Mhm.
I mean, which this quiz took
Yeah.
a lot of effort, to put together. But for me, because I'm a data nerd, the data on the back end of the quiz as it comes in is, oh, there's 5 different answers. Some of the resources go across multiple answers, but they all have 3 different resources. And so seeing which one or 2 or 3, the people were all grabbing at the end of the day, I'm like, this data is invaluable to me
Mm.
right now.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting, and congrats. I love a good quiz. I mean, just it's so good,
I
and
learned a
we
lot.
we can go down that rabbit hole if you have any questions. But let's talk about your podcast, because you went from the B word to $1,000,000 breakthrough recently. Talk to me about the decision and how that transition has been for you.
Oh my gosh, shocking in so many ways. So the decision really came about, I'm a snarky person. And so I love the title, The B Word, but it just didn't feel aligned with me any longer, with the
Mm.
concept that it could be related to the BITCH. Because it really, I love being snarky. I'll drop a good F bomb all day long. but I want to really help women figure out how to create more wealth in their business. And I want them to know that you don't have to be, this badass bitch in order to do it.
Mhm.
And I want them to build it on their own terms so that they can be authentic to them. And so I really looked at it and thought, I think that I might be sending the wrong message with something as simple as the title of my podcast. And so my
Mm.
team and I sat down and we started thinking things through and we started looking at all the options. And I just kept saying, gosh, I just need like only 2% of women entrepreneurs ever make the $1,000,000 mark. 2%. And I was like, I just really need to impact women so that more of them can do that, so that we can break through those molds of like, you have to be a stay at home mom or you can't make more than your
Mhm.
husband. The things that were kind of like put into our brains as kids unknowingly and not on purpose. And I thought, how can I help more women break through to that $1,000,000 business? And my team went, that's it, $1,000,000 breakthrough. And so we kind of threw it out there because, it's so easy to change the name of your podcast. We kind of threw it out there just to see what would happen. And my downloads quadrupled. And that was a shocking thing to me. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
change what I was talking about. I didn't change anything but the name of the podcast, and the downloads quadrupled. And I think it's because finally that podcast name resonated with the audience I was trying to get, and I finally connected the dots.
Mm.
So it's just
Um,
been a wild journey, you know?
oh my gosh, and the searchability, I mean,
Oh, way better now.
so good. Okay, so you haven't really changed the concept of it. Like, talk to us a little bit about, have you made any other changes? How are you using it within your business now?
Yeah. So at first, we were talking a lot about podcasting and how to really lean into
Mhm.
the podcast niche. And now we're shifting a little bit away from that while keeping the concept of a podcast is always going to be really important to my heart. For me, though, it's the vehicle. It's the vehicle a woman's going to use to build her audience and build her authority. Because in business, it's really simple: get the audience, nurture the audience, convert the audience. Like that's how you make money in
Mhm.
business. It's those three things. So a podcast is really how you build, get, and nurture your audience. Like two birds, one stone. So we're kind of shifting now into a little bit more generic female entrepreneurship, a little bit more of just that mindset shift of what you actually need to be doing in order to create that $1,000,000 breakthrough. It's not this unattainable thing that you only think certain people in the world can
Yeah.
get. And we're bringing in female entrepreneurs that are in my world and my friends that, like, how did they do it? Because we want to hear those stories of like, not just the big people that have 80 million followers on Instagram,
Mm.
but like the girl that made her first million at age 42 selling muffins in the back of, her van. Like, how did she do that?
Mhm.
What happened? What changed in her life when she hit that breakthrough? And so we're bringing in a lot of those stories as well in order to make sure that we really stay aligned with our audience and that they see the potential and the relatability. Because if all you ever do is bring in the top of the top elite, it's so unattainable, like they're never going to think that they can do it. They need to be able to see themselves,
Mm.
being able to break through that million. And so we're starting to shift the game just a little bit on the podcast.
I love that. I'm so excited for it. So, I don't know if you wanna share this or not, and if not, that's okay. I can cut this out, but I know we were chatting a couple weeks ago. We had hopped on a call, and you had just gotten back from a retreat, and you had an experience that was a catalyst for you realizing, like, that mindset piece it's just like a burning fire for you. So, talk to us about that. Like, what was that experience like for you? What happened, and how is that transforming your next steps?
Oh, so are we talking about the money mindset exercise?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we did there was 30 of us at the mastermind and all levels of business. I mean, there were some eight-figure entrepreneurs, there's some people that just made their first 100,000. So
Mhm.
it was quite the eclectic little mix, but they were all female. And we did an exercise, and that's actually what prompted episode 299 on my podcast with the blank check. We did this exercise where you took a check and you were supposed to write down, like, what do you see yourself earning, and put a date on the check. Like, when do you see yourself making that kind of money? And me, I'm like, "Oh, heck, I know exactly what I wanna make, and I wanna do it in 18 months," and I thought, "This is so simple, right? Like, why are we doing this exercise?" And the mind-blowing piece to me, and it actually brought me to tears and broke my heart, was as we sat in that room at the end of the exercise and we were sharing our aha moments, there were so many women in that room that were like, "I don't know what number to put down. I'm
Mm,
scared to put down the number I really wanna write down." So we started diving into the why. Like, why do you not think you should make 5,000,000? Why do you think 18,000,000 is too big? Why do you think 1,000,000 is too big? And the answers were things like, I am afraid that my husband will not be okay that I make more than him
mm,
because they grew up in households where, the mom stayed at home and the dad went to work. So it's not that there was any violence, domestically. It was more like, am I emasculating him by
mm,
earning more? Or I see so many women judged online. Like, I don't want the haters and the trolls saying stuff
mm,
about me. Or I don't, I always grew up thinking rich people were snobby and da 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 da. Like, I don't want my kids thinking that. And so there's all these things in the back of our brain that just made me go, oh my gosh, like, why? This is why we're not making millions. This is why. We're doing it to ourselves, ladies. We're
mm,
living in the mindset that we accidentally were given when we grew up. Like my mom stayed at home. My husband's mom stayed at home. When Jeff and I got married and started having kids, he actually said to me, "I don't care if you work. However, I don't want our kids in daycare. We both had stay-at-home moms. I want you to figure out how to work and stay at home." So there's just this little piece of
mm,
us that has been trained over the years that there's only so high we can go. Otherwise, we're stepping into fears of judgment, fears of, all kinds of stuff. And that was just that turning point for me. I
mm.
literally came home, rewrote my entire business plan on the flight, called my team into for a meeting Monday morning, which normally, to be fair, we do our meetings on Tuesdays because we all need Mondays to recoup. And I called them all in on Monday morning and I said, we're about to burn down Podcast Her in a whole new way because we've got to focus on the mindset piece. I can work with you all day long. I can give you every spreadsheet. I can give you every email sequence. I can teach you how to grow an audience. If I can't teach your brain that it's okay to cross the threshold, you never will. It doesn't matter. You never will. So my whole team was like, "Oh my god, here she goes. The visionary's on a roll."
But you know what? Listening to you say that, I have chills. And I feel like that's when you know, like just the way you said it and the way you put it. And just for you to come in with that experience and that knowledge and that heart, we need people like you. Like we need people like you to step in and do that. So I got chills when you said that. Like I sat down, I rewrote my business plan, all of that. I'm just so excited for you, Joanne. And I'm so
Thank
glad you
you.
are in this space doing this because you are putting a voice to so many women who maybe do look to these really big, you know, personalities or these podcast hosts or these female entrepreneurs and go, that doesn't feel really attainable. And then they kind of back
Right.
themselves out of it.
And if you think about it, some and maybe it's just a natural female cattiness that's built into our brain, but there's always gonna be something we will tell ourselves as to why. Like, "Oh, of course that person has a big audience. They worked for so and so and he already had a big audience." Or, "Oh, well that person went viral and then got on a TV show for it and like, so of course they have a big audience." Or
Mhm.
we are just there's something in the back of our brain. And again, I'm not a psychologist, but we will let that switch give us the reasoning why they hit a level and we're not going to. And that's on us. It's not on them. It's on us. But until you break that little neuron that lets you do that, like you're actually never going to make the money you want to make. You're never.
Mm. This is like, I feel like being vulnerable on here. I didn't even know this conversation was going to go here and I'm loving it. But what came up for me when you said that was that I'm dealing with right now is so like, I have a 2-year-old and I'm trying to build a business. And how much of our society says you can't do the same? You can't build a
Yeah.
you 7-figure business and raise these little people. And so I'm looking to people like you who are like, I've done it, I've been there. And so I'm so glad you're creating that space, Joanne.
So, Kylie, that's so funny that you said that because just this morning, now given that Mother's Day is around the corner at the time of
Mhm.
this recording, I actually wrote an email to my newsletter and said, "I
Mhm.
didn't bake the muffins." That was a subject line. And I was really honest with the fact that, hey, like, when my kids were in preschool and I was trying to build this business, all the other moms for Muffins and with Mom at the preschool, like, around, Mother's Day, like, they were circling the date on their calendar. They were getting Pinterest worthy, you know, gluten-free, peanut-free, like, all these amazing muffins and cookies. And I'm, like, on the morning of looking up going, "Oh, crap, I have to be at preschool," and running to Kroger or Publix, grabbing their stuff, throwing it on a plate so it looks like I handmade it, and coming into preschool. And I felt really guilty about that. Like,
Yeah.
so many years, I was like, I am ruining this whole stay-at-home mom thing, like, their preschool years, and then I realized, no. A, they won't remember any of that, truth be told. So I flipped a switch in my own brain that it's okay for me to not be the mom that did Pinterest-worthy muffins. A, I'm a cook, I'm not a baker, and that as long as I showed up for my kids when they needed me to, I was still showing up for my kids to run a business because I'm now teaching my daughter that she may or may not
Mm.
have to go to college. Like, she could do
Mhm.
whatever her little heart desires in her own way. And so that's more important for me. And now in the high school years, I do show up for the baseball games even when I don't have time because I'm like, "Oh, they will remember this." Like at 15 and 17, they flat know if I'm not there. So it's like I just had to give myself permission when they were little to
Mhm.
say, "You know what? I'm not going to watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse every day with them. I'm going to let them self-play some and I'm gonna build something because I don't know what I'm building at this time, but it's building a different set of expectations for my daughter." And that was more important to me.
I'm so in it. I saw that email right before I came on here. I didn't read it, but I saw the subject line. And I was like, I'm going to come back to that one. So now I have to read it. I'm over here tearing up. So you hit a nerve, Joanne, in a good way.
I mean, but it's such a true story. Like, all those other moms are like, "Oh, we handmade the muffins." And I was like, "Sames. Oh,
Yeah.
here's my
Like
platter.
very
Oh, wait, let me take the sticker
family
off that."
recipe.
I think he even bought the platter at Publix. I was like, "Oh, no. Oh, no."
I love the realness. It's so good. Oh, okay. So you burn down PodcastHer. You're creating $1 million breakthrough, all these beautiful things. Can you share anything exciting that you have planned out for your business in the future?
Oh, yeah. So you get the first scoop, and your listeners will get the first scoop. We are actually building an app that will go out through Google Play and it will go out through Apple Store. And it is very specifically designed so that every day there's a new daily something from me. It's either hey, here's a 10-minute idea for your business, or here's that mindset thing that you need to get into.
Mhm.
I'm building this business with you guys. Like, I'm not going to give you everything that I've done. I'm going to say, here's what's happening right now. Here's what I'm seeing right now in the business. And so, my goal is to be that in your pocket, like the CEO
Mhm.
guide almost in your brain of like, hey, okay, here's a little 10 minutes, something I can do to correct the trajectory of my business, or something I hadn't thought about, or she's already learned that like now I need to learn. And then it will have links or, little pop-ups to podcast episodes
Mhm.
either that I'm producing or that I'm listening to, or books that I'm reading, because I want to be that in your back pocket with you mentor. And I can't do that by running a community where people have to show up live for calls. And I can only do it so much on the podcast. And so for
Mhm.
me, this is my love language to all the women entrepreneurs out there. It's me telling you, like, literally every single day, 365 days of the year, you'll get a new message, a new something from me on, okay, here's where we are.
Oh my gosh. What?
That scares me to
Oh,
death. Like, do we all realize that I just opened a tech company here? Like,
well, and that's what I was going to ask is like, could you even imagine that just starting a podcast with a friend with a glass of wine could lead to you starting an app
an
that's going
app.
to like impact so many
I
lives?
know. And I'm like, we'll put out the first version of the app, and then who knows what it'll look like a year from
Yeah.
now. But I'm like, you guys, I'm on this journey with you. Let's go. Let's go. The world
And
changes. Let's keep going. Let's keep evolving.
yeah, this is such a good reminder of if a podcaster feels just like stuck in paralysis of just making a decision, like You will evolve. I feel like we're just in this 2025. I feel like I'm watching so many people evolve into something
Too.
new and more
People I've been
aligned.
watching for years, I'm like, "Wait a minute, who are you now?" And I like to see
Yes,
that.
but it feels authentic. Like going back to it feels more authentic.
Yeah.
So,
I think we all left our corporate quote unquote world and went into digital entrepreneurship and nobody really knew what to do. And now we're all kind of like, fuck it. I don't like doing it that way. I'm going to do it the way I want to, which really, Kylie, works for me because it's how I've always done stuff.
yeah.
Like even back in the real estate days when I walked out of consulting and I started a real estate career. And day one, my broker looked at me and he was like, well, this is how you make money in real estate. You cold call 100 people a day. And I was like, no, I'm
Thanks.
not gonna do that because I don't want you cold calling me. So like, no, I'm not gonna do that. He was like, well, then you'll never make it in real estate. I sold 10 million my first year. I figured it out. Like I did it a way that felt good to me.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I love that. I'm just, yeah, I'm excited for it. Like I'm ready for it. Okay. So you have been in the podcasting industry a while. Like, you're one of those people who you've been in it for a while. So what, if you could pick one big, big, big lesson that you've learned, I know that might be a tough question, but what would it be?
Twofold, if I can. One would be to really understand your mission.
Mm,
It's like we say all the time, understand your audience, understand your avatar. And I will say, you really don't know who your avatar is unless you know what your mission in life is.
mm,
If you're teaching the Enneagram, why? If you're teaching generic business, why? If you're doing therapy for, divorcing couples, why? Like you've got to know the why in order to identify the who. And then the second piece I would say is now the 5 to 10 people that you're following online or listening to their podcast because they're in your space, unfollow them. Delete them from your playlist for the next 60 days. I don't want you to look at them on Instagram. I don't want you to look at them on LinkedIn. And I don't want you to listen to their podcast episodes because for the next 60 days, you've got to identify your why and your who. And then you got to figure out how to deliver that message in your voice and not in someone else's. And when we listen to other people in our space and we like they've already built the audience. They've got the perfect offer. Their Instagram's on point. Like what we subconsciously as women especially do is we try to mimic them even without knowing that's what we're doing. So when you remove the noise of your mentors and the people that you love what they're doing because you're also doing it. But if you take that noise out for 60 days, then you can find your own voice and then bring them back in. Start listening to their shows again. Start following them back on Instagram. You do you. But for 60 days, it's almost like going on a fast. You got to take them
mm.
out of your brain in order to find your own voice.
I love that. Oh, those are so good. I can't believe how quickly you came up with those, but those are so, so solid, so good. I love
Well,
those.
it's funny. I think I came up with them quickly because I was talking to my own coach about that concept like really recently is I kind of didn't figure out my voice until I cut myself off from the
Mhm.
people that I was looking at, the people I was, you know, admiring in the space. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, huh. Am I subconsciously trying to be them, even though like I don't have their personality? My offers are different, and so I actually went on a fast and cut myself off from everyone. And then that's kind of when $1 million breakthroughs started to
Yeah,
really gel for me. And so I'm like, okay. Well, if I did that, then it might help someone else.
it's so good. I remember hearing that years ago, just like a content consumption detox. But I love you're having just so many breakthroughs. It's the perfect word. It's just aligned.
It
It's so
is. It's
good.
like, I hope I don't hate that word in 18 months, but right now it's my word.
And if you do, hey, there's room to pivot, right?
We'll rebrand again. I mean, I'm kind of the queen at that.
It's so good. Well, I have one more question and we kind of surfaced it, but as a female entrepreneur, a female podcast, a mama, like what do you do to kind of balance it all, to stay grounded in it all?
That is a great question. I would say, honestly, my kids keep me grounded. And you'll see this as your little ones, your tiny humans, start to grow and become their own definite people. It's really easy for us to get caught up on what our Instagram or our LinkedIn should, say or
Mhm.
look like until your teenager comes home and makes fun of it.
Ooh,
It's really easy to put something out on a podcast episode until your teenager comes home and says, "Mom, my friends listened to this episode and it's not always negative. I mean, sometimes it's positive, but I think for me, keeping grounded means having conversations every single day with my little people because
Mhm.
whether it's we need to go to the ball field for, playoff games or mom, please don't ever sit with bare feet again because that's horrifying. Like you learn all kinds of stuff from them. And so ironically, I think that they're what keeps me grounded between the online world that my brain lives in and the real family world that I actually live in.
What comes to mind when you say that is you're also showing them to just like go for it. You know
Yeah.
what? Just go for it. Even if somebody might think it's XYZ. Like this morning I was getting Clove over to daycare and she had her Crocs on opposite feet and I'm like, yeah, she just went for it. Like it's not perfect, but hey, she went for it. And it's such a good reminder for us to do the same.
We do. Yeah, we have to. But literally like speaking of feet, I had some photo up or one of my it was a podcast episode and I was curled up in a chair because I have a studio here at the house too and I was barefoot and I just tucked my feet up underneath me cuz like that's me. I'm always barefoot. I live in Georgia. I don't put shoes on half the time. And my daughter came home, Emily, and she was like, "Mom, you put an Instagram reel, like a little snippet of it out there." And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Don't worry, I'm not on TikTok. I know you've already banned me from TikTok." And she's like, "Well, it is on Instagram. And do you know that there's something called Feet Finder?" And I was like, I didn't even know that existed. Like, oh my God. So yeah, I have to put everything now through the lens of the 15-year-old.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this episode has been so fun. We're talking about feet. We're talking about the vibration of authenticity. We're having, tears over here. This has been so fun, so real. Thank you, Joanne. Where can my listeners learn more about you, everything you have going on? How can they be the first to hear about your app?
I would say that if you go to themilliondollar breakthrough.com, get on the list, and you'll be the first ones to hear about the app, probably before we really publicly announce it. And otherwise, I'm on Instagram at It's Joanne Bolt and LinkedIn, Joanne Bolt. Those are the two platforms that I like to play on. So come hang out.
Amazing. And you know what I'm just realizing? I think you and I originally connected in, I think it was like January or February, maybe even, and you hadn't created $1 Million Breakthrough.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, how quickly you did after that. I
Oh,
was like,
I'm a fast
oh,
pivot. I don't do anything slow. I'm like, nope, let's go. Yeah, no, the first time I contacted you, I was like, I might rebrand the
mhm.
podcast and maybe you can help me with that. And yeah, it just snowballed from there. So
So beautiful. I just love it. I love that energy. And I'm so glad you're in my life, Joanne. Thank you for joining me today. This has been an absolute pleasure.
my pleasure too, Kylie.